All right.
Ian, we got
Patreon.com/CU podcast. You go, you exchange a little bit of money, and in return, you get the full video podcast. Oh, big stretch.
big stretch.
Big stretch. You get writings, which I just posted today. I talked about making a little leftover casserole. You get the Nothing Matters bonus bits.
Exclusive podcast.
The exclusive podcast.
You know what it's called, finally.
That we record in the morning before we start recording. Here's Get Limber.
There's a monthly hangout.
There's hangouts, pin clubs, and these poll topics for you.
In second place, thoughts on VR and the new PSVR 2.
Yeah, we'll just wipe that one next week.
24%. What?
We'll just wipe that one next week.
24% isn't bad. And in first place, you say it's hard to think of these topics. We did this for several fucking years.
Yes, it's very difficult.
First place, underrated and overrated video game controllers, 76%.
Underrated, the JogCon on the PlayStation 1. So Namco...
Oh, you always bring this up.
Namco fucking loves making weird controllers for games. They have their guns, etc. They had the NegCon for the PlayStation, which was the first weird Ridge Racer controller that has a pivot in the center, and when you twist it, you turn left and right.
Who did that one again?
Namco.
They did. Okay.
The NegCon. And then they did the JogCon for Ridge Racer Type 4. Now, the JogCon is not nearly as loved as the NegCon. It's weird. It's got a big jog wheel in the center.
It's got a wheel in the front.
Yeah, with the little thumb disc. The little thumb indent. The neat thing about this controller, though, is that it's force feedback. It's actually a mini force feedback wheel. So when you turn, the resistance and stuff on the jog dial actually changes.
Oh.
Yeah, as you steer. So it actually feels a little bit like a little arcade steering wheel that you just control with your thumbs.
If the game supports it, it'll like get stuck or get harder to turn back.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. It was made for Ridge Racer Type 4, but I believe you can use it for a couple other select games.
I'll look that up.
And I've actually probably beaten Ridge Racer Type 4 more times with the JogCon than I have without it. I don't think it was particularly well loved, but I bought it with the game the day it came out in the big box set. I forced myself to learn how to use it, and I got damn good with it. So that's one of my favorites.
Well, there's a lot of compatibility for the NegCon.
Yes, NegCon's got a lot of compatibility.
There's dozens of games.
Yep.
A few dozen, like 3 or 4 dozen games. Twisted Metal. Tekken might have some. The Ridge Racer games, Need for Speed. Ace Combat games. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, Ace Combat. One that would have been really cool that I've never played is Tempest X3 uses it, which would actually probably be really good as kind of like a dial substitute. Sure. I know Wipeout used it. Arkanoid uses it, which would also make a lot of sense. Arkanoid would be a really good use for the Neg. This is the NegCon I'm talking about. According to
Wikipedia, there's a Wikipedia entry for the JogCon. I've never seen one in person. I've never seen one at the swap meet before. I would have bought
a NegCon or a JogCon.
I don't think I've seen either. I've
got both.
I definitely haven't seen a JogCon because I would have bought it because that's cool as hell.
Yeah.
JogCon is fully compatible with games such as Ridge Racer 4, Type 4, V-Rally 2, Pac-Man World, the PlayStation version of Breakout, PlayStation 2, Ridge Racer 5, and other games that can be used as a regular PlayStation controller by turning off the JogCon mode using the Switch. JogCon also has a relatively unknown NegCon compatibility mode. By holding the mode button as you turn the PlayStation, the JogCon wheel emulates the NegCon's twist functionality.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, Ian's learned something. However,
I never knew that.
As force feedback isn't supported in this mode, the wheel will not self-center. On top of this, the default button mapping for a NegCon or any G-Con, whatever, usually means the X square buttons are used for acceleration and brake, whereas in games like Ridge Racer Type 4 and V-Rally 2, these controls are moved to the shoulder buttons to allow for both thumbs to control the wheel. Okay, so like there's semi-compatibility, but not as much. Interesting. And that's why I didn't sell that JogCon, because the compatibility wasn't as... You're buying for
and there was no analog sticks at the time. I can't remember if they were already into the DualShock era by that point in time. But yeah.
Probably. This is 98 this came out. Yeah, because that was like a year or two when they went into that, didn't they?
So I love those controllers, and I will also shout out a little bit of love right now for the power pad, which
You stole my answer.
I'm sorry. I know a lot of people don't like the power pad. I fucking loved the power pad.
I think it's a little underrated, the power pad.
It is.
I think it functions fine.
I think if it had been made a little bit better, it could have been even better. But it functioned fine for the games that it used. And I think some of the
It's responsive.
I think some of the third party Bandai. Well, that's not technically third party because Bandai made it. Explode is really good. Short Order is a lot of fun.
Dance aerobics works.
Dance aerobics is fun, and it's overly ambitious and not like a great game to play. But Street Cop's really interesting.
All Street Cop had to do was make it optional to use the D-pad to move up and down. That's the problem with Street Cop is the moving up and down. It's not intuitive where to place your foot and stuff. But yeah, you want to smack a mugger on the head with a nightstick? Sure, go for it. Yeah, and it's a shame that there wasn't obviously more with the there was like 3 or 4 more games in Japan, because remember in Japan it was never a power pad, it was always just a Family Fun Fitness pad.
Right.
There it was popular. It was not popular.
Isn't there like some sort of like almost like first person like haunted maze game that always looked really cool to me, and I never played it.
There's a maze game. There's a few other games that didn't come out here. I think what Nintendo was probably like, yeah, we're just gonna see how this does, and it's already been out for a few years in Japan. I think it came out in Japan in like '86. So I think at that point, or a few years later, it was almost like, well, we're just gonna put out and see what happens, and not really do much else. But I think it could have been bigger than what it was if you had all you had to have done is make like a Mario game with the power pad. Something simple and just use like Mario characters, and it would have sold.
Yeah,
it would have sold.
Easy jumping on top of like Goombas shit.
Or even like obviously they took Stadium events and made it world-class track meet. Do the first Nintendo Olympics game with Mario characters, and it would have sold.
Right.
It would have sold. Make them side scroll, whatever. And
yeah, basically any effort applied by Nintendo beyond the sports pack would have been.
Yeah, they just did Short Order, Explode, and that's
Super Team Games.
Yeah, that
Street Cop.
But I mean, but those were Bandai and other.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Nintendo didn't put in the effort themselves.
No, Nintendo did. Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, if Nintendo had put in any effort, but I mean, at the time, again, that's hindsight's 2020.
Sure.
I mean, this was so early on; they didn't know Mario was going to become the next big fucking thing.
Gotcha. I'll stick with NES. I'll give you an overrated one.
Okay.
I think the Zapper's overrated. I think the Zapper's a little overrated. I know we love the Zapper. I know it's like the original light gun everyone played with that we had. For most games, it's tough to use because of the quickness, the blockiness. It's tough to use for games like Operation Wolf, where you need a rapid fire. Pulling it one at a time is like impossible to play it and be successful. A game like Gotcha, it works a lot better. To the Earth is impossible because of the speed and accuracy you need with that.
Yeah,
it's impossible. Yeah, I think I got to like the second or third stage. It's like, I don't know who could beat this game with the Zapper. I'm sure it's possible, but like the responsiveness is not there. Hell, it's tough with Chiller to play with Chiller.
Well, it's impossible. I mean, but Chiller's not a well-made game.
Oh, it's impossible with 2 players. So
it's pretty rough with 1 too.
For like Duck Hunt, it works pretty well. Hogan's Alley, it works pretty well.
Wild Gunman.
But once you get away from those, even games like the Shooting Range and the other one Nintendo did, I always forget the name of it. God damn it.
Gumshoe.
Trick Shooting.
Trick Shooting.
It's some of those games are tougher. Like shooting, when she throws up the stuff in the air, you got to shoot them. In Barker Bill's Trick Shooting. Why do I always forget about that Zapper game? It's honestly one of the better ones on there.
What, Barker Bill?
Yeah.
No, it's all right.
But the Zapper is not built for some of those activities. It just isn't.
No, but I respect the Zapper a little bit more. I do. I think the Zapper was fine for what it did. I think the games that step outside of what it can handle, those are mostly third party. So that's kind of on them. They just wanted to do more with it than they could. I think if I'm really going to look at one, well, it's not overrated, I guess. It's probably well rated, but I have bigger problems with like the Super Scope. All those 16-bit era light guns that used the IR tracking, they suck.
I just hate the Super Scope itself. I just hate the fact that it's a bazooka. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just give me a pistol like the Menacer and the Genesis. Just give me a pistol-looking design I could use, but that would have been fine. That I was so turned off by the Super Scope just because of the form factor. I never got one. I went over to my cousins and played it. Who had everything? The three boys who had everything, and I was like, "This is." I said, "This is trash to me." The bazooka thing is ridiculous.
No, it's too much.
I know they were concerned about the fucking Congress coming down and everything. It's like, come on, it's a gray gun. Like, it's not a weapon. You're not going to be confused by it. It's ridiculous.
Was the Super Scope the same in Japan? I never really looked into that.
Good question. I believe so. That's actually a good question. I never saw a different one. Super Famicom Super Scope. That's a great question.
Yeah, look, it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Is the color scheme a little bit different?
No,
They kept the same color scheme?
Yeah, it looks like it kept the same color scheme too.
Yeah. And obviously the justifier for stuff like Lethal Enforcers, but it wasn't compatible with the other games on the Super Nintendo.
No, because the justifier acted like a normal light gun and the Super Nintendo used the IR, so you couldn't, unfortunately, you still couldn't do the rapid fire with the justifier.
Sure.
My understanding.
Sure. I guess, as quickly as the refresh would happen. Like in the arcade it was
Yeah, right.
single shots.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are a couple there. I'm gonna go back to it because you folks don't know how to use the NES Max. The NES Max is underrated. You just got to know what games to use it for and how to use it. Ice hockey, it's the best controller ever made. Or track and field too. You gotta love the NES Max when it comes to that. You got any overrated ones? You had a couple of underrated ones.
No real overrated. Well, the
Advantage is overrated.
Advantage is hugely overrated. Although I don't know that it's really overrated. I think at this point it's rated. People understand that it's not great.
Yeah.
I really don't like, you know what one that was really, really popular? I'll call this overrated, I guess, because it was popular when it would come into Luna, is the original ASCII Super Nintendo arcade stick. The one with the colored buttons on the front.
The one actually set up 3 and 3?
No, it's not. It's set up fucking weird. It has a weird setup that isn't...
Oh, the gray controller.
There's a color one, too.
Okay,
yeah.
I looked it up.
I
know what you're talking about. I have the gray one.
Yeah. So it's the buttons aren't laid out properly to start with.
The Super Advantage wasn't either.
Yeah. The buttons are not laid out properly. And on top of that, but people always want to buy it. And on top of that, the buttons, when you press them on the edges, the buttons tend to get stuck under the lip of the plastic.
Really?
Yeah, it's a really shitty joystick. And I like a lot of ASCII-ware stuff from that time period. Yeah, but I hate the ASCII-ware Super Nintendo joystick. It's awful.
The ASCII controller with the turbo switches is fantastic because the triggers don't break.
A really nice feeling D-pad too.
That's an underrated one. What we got here?
That one.
Oh, that's the Nintendo Super Advantage.
Oh, well, it's ASCII. I'm sorry. It's made by ASCII-ware. Okay. So that is the one I'm thinking.
The Super Advantage is trash.
Yeah, it's because absolute dog shit.
The L's on the left, the R's, it's ridiculous. So the best pad ever to me for the Super Nintendo is the ASCII-ware ASCII pad because it has switches for turbos for all of them.
This reminds me of a good one.
Has switches for all of them. And like I said, the R and the L's are really good. They're not mushy. They don't break. I never had an ASCII-ware pad break on me for that.
Underrated because a lot of people don't know what the fuck you're supposed to do with it. I think it's called the Capcom Soldier Pad. I need to look it up.
Capcom. All these prices are going to go up.
It is. The Capcom Soldier Pad. And no one...
Oh, that one, yeah.
This pad is awesome if you like fighters because it's... So when I play fighting games, I have a stick, but I've kind of become a pad fighter, which is where I hold my pad against my leg and I use my D-pad and then I tap the buttons.
You tap instead of using your thumb?
I tap the buttons instead of using my thumb. The Capcom Soldier Pad, people love to look at that thing and go, what the fuck do you do with it? It's a pad designed to do that with. It's tilted out so that you can cross your leg and put that bit right there.
Oh, is that why
that's why it's twisted.
That's why it's shaped like that.
Yeah, and then you use your fingers to tap it out. Well, it's actually a really awesome fucking pad, but no one knows what to do with it when they first see it.
Maybe it's the name, Soldier Pad. They should have called it Fighting Pad.
Right, exactly.
Because Capcom had their own fighting stick that actually was laid out well. And the other one that was laid out well, what was the other one? The Fighter Stick Pro. That's the one that I thought, that's the gray one. That's the one that's actually pretty good.
Right.
The fighter, that's one I thought that was great because it has 3 in the top, 3 in the bottom. I don't know if the buttons are mushy or not, but that's the one that's set up properly. But Capcom had theirs as well. That was more expensive. So yeah, that's just for NES and Super. And any some people were saying we were going to trash the N64 controller as being overrated. I don't think the N64 controller is overrated. I think it's fine for what it is. I think it's fine.
I don't love it, but it's fine.
I don't think it's bad. The D-pad's fine. The analog, yes, you can break the analog on it, but if you misuse it. But I think the analog is pretty good if you get a pretty fresh controller, one that hasn't been beat to death before it's worn out. I used to play Smash Bros. In college all the time. It was fine. You can pull off the moves. Yeah, that's it. I guess that's it for our controllers.
That's it.